and welcome to the channel DK Fantasy Creation and Design. We are on episode 2 and today we are doing a pretty easy and cheap craft that you can either use for a Halloween costume, you can use for a cosplay, you can use it as home decor, and that is lock, shock, and barrel masks. So I'm going to walk you through this. It's actually a pretty easy tutorial. My girlfriends and I are going to be doing a lock, shock, and barrel cosplay photo set next month. So I thought I would get started and get ahead on crafting the masks part. So you're only going to need a couple materials, and I want to say in total the materials maybe cost me less than $15 for 3 masks, so that's very inexpensive. So the first thing you're going to need for lock and shock are masks. You can find these plastic masks at Michael's or Joanne Fabrics in the, I don't know, it's kind of by like the boas and like beads and kind of stuff. That is where I found mine. So you're gonna need 2 of these. And then for barrel, you are going to need a plastic plate. You're also going to need a small paint tray, some paintbrushes, some paints, just cheap acrylic. These are like 99 cents at the craft store. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You're also going to need some E6000 glue and some regular glue as well, like just generic school glue. You're going to need some modeling clay, so you can use Crayola modeling clay or Model Magic. I used something, I think it was called Hardy, something along that line, which is a kind of more expensive clay, but it was just what I had left over from another project. I got it off of Amazon, but you can definitely use the Crayola modeling clay and it is much cheaper. And then the last thing you're gonna need is this, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is in the paint aisle of your local craft store, and basically what it is, it's like a coat of paint that allows you to paint over plastic without it like flaking and what have you. So this is really important. I think this was the most expensive thing out of everything. It was originally $13 and I got it on sale for like $7. If you go to Joanne Fabrics, they take competitors' coupons, and then they have their own coupon system, so make sure you're using that for your full price items so that you can save a little bit more. Okay, so those are materials that you are going to need, so let's get right into making lock, shock, and barrel masks. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this channel interests you. We are growing quite a little community. We have almost 400 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. I'm also well aware that it is probably Wednesday right now. Because there was so much drying time, this project took me a little bit longer to make. So I do apologize. I'm not sure if there will be a video on Friday, but I will definitely see you next Tuesday. Let's get started.
Hey guys, here we go. Voiceover Stephanie once again. So we're gonna get right into lock and shock first. So you're going to take your masks and you're gonna take this Gizo, I don't know how to pronounce it, but you're gonna take that and you are basically going to put one coat on each mask. Like I said, this prevents paint directly on plastic peeling, so it's definitely a step that you do not want to miss. I also want to put a disclaimer out here that I made a couple mistakes on lock, but I decided to keep them in because I think it's important and you guys can kind of learn from my mistakes. I will put a link for the masks in the description box below as well. I also noticed that these masks don't have any form of strap, so if you want to wear them, ours will just be used for props. But if you do want to wear them, you're just going to have to poke two small holes in either side and either use some form of elastic or ribbon to kind of fit them to your face. So yeah, this is just wanted to show you the exact mask I got in case you want to get the exact one. Like I said, it was found where like the boas and leather working stuff were, and they were under $5 a piece. And we're just going to once again paint one coat of this onto the mask. They took about an hour or so to dry fully, so kind of take this into consideration. This project is tedious in the sense that there's a lot of dry time. Okay, so now that these are dry, you're going to take your modeling clay. Like I said, you don't have to use the stuff that I'm using. This stuff that I'm using is actually pretty expensive compared to the Crayola modeling clay. And this modeling clay also takes over 24 hours to dry as well. So once again, it was a tedious drying time. So I started kind of just shaping the nose for shock. And then when I kind of got the shape that I wanted, I just put some of that E6000 glue on to make the clay kind of stick. And then I kind of got to sculpting, just constantly looking at a reference picture. This was my first time working with clay, so I was really nervous, and I'm also a perfectionist, so I definitely redid the nose, I want to say at least 10 times, but I chose not to put that in because honestly that'd probably bore you. So then you just want to kind of press down the sides a bit once you have the shape. I also think that the Crayola modeling clay is workable a lot better than the stuff that I'm using. The stuff kind of, I want to say like it kind of dried out pretty quickly. So I definitely felt a little rushed working with it. Seriously, guys, I am a perfectionist. I could have been here for hours, but eventually I just started getting frustrated and decided that, you know what, that's close enough. So the next thing you're going to do is roll out two smaller balls for the horns and just kind of, I don't know, like mush them in your hands and pull upwards to kind of make that horn shape. You gotta do the motion like you're old school starting a fire. I tried to get them as even as possible. They're not perfect, but they will do. And then kind of figure out where you're gonna place them. And then once again, you're gonna take some of that glue and just pop them on. And kind of smush the edges down a little bit so that it sticks to the mask. The horns were a little heavy, so I definitely suggest leaving your mask laying down flat while working with it, just until the horns dry a little bit. Something that I noticed, I just had to readjust them a little bit when I had the mask sitting up straight, and then when they dried, they were absolutely fine, and they're very stable. Ta-da! Okay, and then like Shock has a really weird pointed chin. So you're gonna take a small ball of clay and just kind of make it into kind of a point triangle. I kind of molded it on top so that it had a like really over exaggerated pointed shape, and then pushed it downwards. Then I realized that the other pieces when I was trying to do the chin weren't sticking, so I decided to go ahead and use that regular. Well, first I tried to use the E6000 glue, and it definitely was not. It just my paintbrush just clogged up. It was not working at all. So then I grabbed the school glue and just kind of put that along the edges of the clay pieces so that they would stick better to the mask. I definitely think that next time I film, I'm going to put the camera kind of behind my shoulder so you guys can kind of see better. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just still awkward filming myself doing projects, but I feel like sometimes I struggled with kind of showing you guys what I'm doing. And of course, I want you guys to be able to actually follow along if you are going to make these projects. Okay, so back to the chin. Just gonna put a little bit of glue on the bottom. And then kind of just smush it. You might have to mold it a little bit. I found that if I pushed a little too hard that I would leave indents in the clay. Okay, and then we're just going to go over that with the regular white glue as well. Okay, and that is Shock. For Lock, it's a lot easier than Shock because it's just one pointed nose. Obviously, the mask, normally the eyes sit up way higher, but this is what we're working with. So once again, you're just gonna kind of mold it, put that glue down, put it back on the mask, and just kind of fit it, push the edges down. Try super hard not to be an insane perfectionist. Shock definitely gave me a run for my money, and you will see that a little bit later in the video. And of course, this is the one that I will be cosplaying. So it definitely annoyed me throughout the whole process. And then once again, you're just taking that school glue and putting it along the edges. Ta-da! Once that is dry, once your clay is dry, so for me it was 24 hours, you are just going to go over again and do one coat over everything. So the mask again and all the clay. It'll just make it easier for the paint to stick onto the clay when you are painting your masks. I never knew about this product until I was doing some research on YouTube actually for something completely different, and I ran into a video which I can no longer find about this product. And honestly, it just made the acrylic paint so much easier to work with. So please, guys, if you are doing this or you are doing a project that involves plastic and painting on plastic, I highly suggest you invest in this jar of paint. It is spelled Gesso, and definitely a little goes a long way. Okay, so for barrel, behind the scenes, I took a plate and threw it at Kylo and told him to cut 2 holes in it, and I believe he used a Dremel. You're just going to go ahead and cover your plastic plate. Oh, I don't know, there was a glitch in my editing there for a second, but we're just backtracked for a hot second apparently. But yeah, it was just me showing you the plastic plate and then the holes that were cut into it, and then you're just gonna go over with that white base and cover the entire front of the plate. So while that's drying, going back to chalk, I kind of went back and forth all day today. You are going to draw on his smile. So he has like a really devilish grin. So kind of just look at a picture for reference. So there's my base, and then I'm just kind of figuring out where I want to put the teeth. I also realized that if you really want to, instead of using acrylic paint, you could probably use spray paint as well and then go in and color the mouth. A fun fact, Nightmare Before Christmas is probably my 3rd favorite animated film, and since September the 1st, I have already watched it 7 times. Let me know what your favorite movie is in the comments so I know that you guys are paying attention. So you're just going to take your red paint and slap it all over, except for the mouth, obviously. I found that it took a couple coats, so the first coat you could definitely see all the paint strokes, and I was low-key panicking for a while. And then every time I would try to fix it or go over it, obviously the paint wasn't dry yet, so it was just streaking it more, and it was honestly a hot mess. And this is the part where I completely fail at chalk. So you're seeing me painting right now, definitely disregard that. First of all, I painted chalk the wrong colored green. I looked at the wrong reference photo, and it was so streaky. It was so horrible. So just forget about that, okay? So here's the first coat of chalk. Obviously you can see all the imperfections. You can see the clay, you can see the paint strokes. So I decided to hit it up with a second coat of red, and yep, that definitely did it. It fixed that awful situation. So this is the disaster that is chalk. Like, it is garbage. It is absolute garbage. So what I did the next day in the morning, I tried to save it with a second coat, and it made it look a little bit better, but once again it was completely the wrong color. So the day after in the morning, I went out to Menards and bought spray paint, and I did not film spray painting it, but I mean, spray painting is pretty self-explanatory, and I painted it a lighter shade of green, almost like when you pour cement, when like cement is wet. That's kind of the color of the mask that it's supposed to be. So yeah, it was a little bit better with the second coat, but it was still hideous. So I kind of gave up on that for a while, and while that paint was drying, I decided to finish chalk. And you just go in with a really fine paintbrush And this is definitely tedious. This is probably the most tedious part of the whole thing. Well, that's a lie. Barrel was pretty tedious. But this was equally a pain. And you're just gonna go in and draw in. Draw in. We're gonna paint in. We're not drawing. Paint in the teeth. I realize this video is a little bit long. I'm definitely learning while editing, and what I decided to do kind of halfway through this video is film the first like 10-15 seconds of one step and then filming the last 10 seconds or 15 seconds of that same step, instead of you seeing every single move I'm making, just so that my videos are not like a half an hour to an hour long. So I do apologize for the longer video. I will definitely do better next time. So this is shock. Okay, so yep, back to lock. I just don't want to talk about it. Apparently I haven't got the spray paint yet. I'm just in my sorrows. But I did go out and get spray paint. Now on to Beryl. So Beryl has this like weird kind of nose that's out but not out. So we're just gonna attempt to make a small nose with some clay. Just kind of make a little ball and then put it into like a triangle and just once again kind of play with it on the plate. I decided that that was way too much clay and we didn't want Beryl to have a huge honker. Once again, take that E6000 glue, put a little bit on your plate and stick the clay down and kind of press down the edges. And then what I'm doing, I'm just putting 2 slits in for his nostrils. And once again, trying to not be a super perfectionist. It's hard, guys, it's hard. At this point, I'm thinking that Beryl is kind of looking like an owl, so I just kind of reference photo checked. But that's just gonna have to do. And then once again, you're just gonna take that white glue and put it around the edges. Gives the clay just a little extra stability. Ta-da! So now we're going to draw on the smile and teeth. And once again, just used a reference photo and kind of free-handed it the best I could. I would also like to state behind the scenes, I did not film, but I did put a second coat of that Gesso paint all over the nose and the plate itself. And then you're just going to take a fine brush again and paint in the teeth. You probably will have to do a couple touch-ups when you're actually painting in his teeth. This was also very tedious. you guys like my lock screen. It's a unicorn. I'm obsessed with unicorns, guys. That's my favorite animated film of all time is The Last Unicorn. I have the book signed by Peter Beagle. I actually got to meet him, I want to say about 6 years ago. They had a special filming in a couple of our local theaters. It's pretty cool. So Beryl has these like, his eyes are really sunken in and dark, and then they have this really small red ring. So I'm kind of just going in on the inside and painting that red. And then I kind of just marked where the circles were going to go. Obviously, they can't be as wide as the actual reference photo because I'm using a plate. So I just kind of did a couple thin circles. And I had to do 2 coats because the first coat you could definitely see all the brush strokes. Can I just say, doing this voiceover, like I do not blame anyone for skipping half of this and going right to the end. If you guys don't have an interest in making these and are just here to support me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now we're just drawing for drawing. We're not drawing. We're painting. We are painting in the teeth, and I kind of just had to make my own kind of gray-green color because I didn't have anything that was anywhere near the color that the teeth were. So it's looking pretty good so far. And this is what it looks like finished. So I neglected to show you any of Shock, but I just painted it green and then put blue kind of around the eyes and put in the frown, which I kind of think looks like a mustache, but that's what we're doing.